Let's talk about college football. This past weekend, probably my favorite game in college football I watched was Washington at Oregon. Washington won 37-34. And first of all, this game did not disappoint. It was exactly the fun offensive battle I was hoping for. You got two really good quarterbacks. Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr. threw for 400 yards. He had a beautiful touchdown pass on the left sideline with like 3 minutes left. He's a lefty, and it's hard for me to judge the mechanics of a lefty until I flip it and watch it, but like he throws the ball really well. He did have a dumb interception on the goal line. First and goal, he was extending the play. Probably just should have thrown the ball, out of the back of the end zone into the stands. Instead, he tried to force a throw, got picked off. Like, that's a little thing you learn from. And then Oregon quarterback Bo Nix is really, really talented. I'm a big fan of this guy. He runs super well. And I at this point am not sold on the Kentucky quarterback, Will Levis. Everyone talks about how great Will Levis is. Will Levis is, I think it's like people decided in the offseason he was going to be a first-round pick, and so now, despite what he's doing this year, people can't move off of it. He does some good stuff. I'm not hating on Will Levis, but I'm like, is he that impressive? I'm not really sure. And I think at this point, personally, right now, I would rather draft Bo Nix in the second or third round than draft Will Levis in the first round. And if it came down to the second or third round, I'm still like, I might rather have Bo Nix. And that's maybe weird and controversial. I'm the guy who once said I'd rather have Jalen Hurts than Justin Herbert. So you can hate on me all you want. But Bo Nix is a guy I would love to coach. You can teach this guy how to use his really good physical skill set. He runs really well. He's got a huge arm. I just hope somebody that has a need at quarterback will draft Bo Nix. I see him going somewhere like, the Raiders is really interesting. Tennessee, Washington, Dallas. I know that's a weird one, but Dallas. Like, Bo Nix would be really fun to watch with the Cowboys offense. I don't know, man. I want to see Bo Nix go somewhere and get a shot to play, or maybe go somewhere with an older quarterback and work your way in, or go somewhere with an average quarterback and maybe work your way in that way. But I'll just tell you what, like, as a guy, I think about what I want to coach this guy. I would love to game plan and design an offense around the skill set of Bo Nix in the NFL. That would be really fun. And he's an awesome leader. I just love this kid. He's really cool. Now, Bo Nix did have a costly fumble. It's worth talking about. He fumbled. They ran on 3rd and inches near the goal line. They put him under center, and he fumbled the snap. And a big turnover. It's a painful play. And then Oregon made this weird decision. They lose to Washington, and the way it went down was very weird. On 4th and 1, with 1:31 left, ball on their own 34-yard line, way backed up in their own territory. The game is tied 34-34. Oregon goes for it, 4th and 1 in their own territory, and got stopped. And it felt like a dumb, unforced error. And I'm like, Oregon, why are you doing that? Like, what's the problem? Why are you handing Washington the ball in field goal range, which they did? Washington kicked the field goal. They won by a field goal. Just a painful, weird loss for Oregon, where I'm like, I don't really understand why you did that at the end. Oregon is now 8-2, and losing pretty much closes the door on any small shot that Oregon had at a Pac-12 appearance for the college, at least at Oregon making the college football playoff. Maybe USC can make it in, but I thought Oregon was their best shot, and losing eliminates Oregon from any college football playoff contention, which is, I think, disappointing. Now, they probably would have got blown out, so maybe it's good for them. We get to see a better, like, they go to the Rose Bowl or something and win. I don't know, maybe the Rose Bowl is one of the playoff games. I'm not sure this year, but I'm actually happier getting to watch Oregon in a bowl game they could win and have more competition in. But I think Oregon TCU would have been like a really fun playoff game, and we're not going to get anything like that now. The focus now for the Pac-12 is, I keep saying Pac-12. The focus now for Oregon is just on them trying to win the Pac-12 title, because the season's not a total loss. For Oregon, it's definitely still been a great year, in my opinion. I've walked away very impressed with their head coach, Dan Lanning. They hired Dan Lanning. He was a defensive coordinator at Georgia. It's his first year ever as a head coach. It's also his first year at Oregon, and that's worth mentioning because he just got to Eugene. Like, he's not a guy who's been there for 5 years as an assistant and risen up. Like, no, he's learning the city, learning the school, learning how it works. And with that perspective, I think Oregon's having a great year. They're 8-2. And I just, if nothing else, you realize we got the right coach. It sucks we're not going to make the college football playoff, but I think even for Oregon fans, it's kind of a blessing in disguise to avoid a blowout to Ohio State or Georgia. Another thought I have in this game is that there were cool uniform combinations. Oregon had their highlighter yellow on, yellow helmets, yellow pants and jerseys, and Washington had their all-purple uniform with the gold helmet. It was cool. I just really had a great time in this game, and it was very, very quality entertainment. Now, I've got a note on the Pac-12. I kept saying Pac-12, like kind of a Freudian slip, because I knew I was going here next. UCLA lost this weekend. Arizona beat them, and shout out to Jayden de Laura, Hawaii-born quarterback. Had a great game as Arizona beats UCLA. But, like, it happens every year that the Pac-12 just beats up on itself. There is no undefeated, standalone top dog in the Pac-12. USC has one loss. Oregon, Utah, UCLA, and Washington are all 8-2. And I love the Pac-12. I'm a big fan of the Pac-12. Like, I'm not all in. I'd rather watch an SEC game, honestly, or even a Big 12 game. But the Pac-12 in a vacuum is really fun. And if you only pay attention to the Pac-12, which a lot of people, I'm in the Northwest right now, a lot of people here only pay attention to the Pac-12. And those people have a great time because you never know who's going to win. It's always, they beat up on each other. And in a vacuum, like I said, it's really fun. When you don't pay attention to what's going on nationally, it's great. But there's also no dominant top team to represent the Pac-12 nationally, like in a college football playoff scenario. And that's disappointing. I think that the Pac-12 will make more money if they can have a team that's a standalone team above everybody else. And I'm torn because it's what we get every year from the Pac-12 is such compelling, good football and fun storylines, and it's close and interesting. But unfortunately, there is no real shot at the college football playoff again this year because they just, every year, they beat up on each other. Now, in the SEC this weekend, Alabama beat Ole Miss 30-24, and it was so much fun. This game came right down to the end. Alabama's quarterback, Bryce Young, is so fun to watch, man. Like he can win in the pocket throwing the football with accuracy and timing. He's also great at extending plays. And truly, though, like this game, Ole Miss Alabama was such an even, good matchup. And I had this kind of thought. I'm going to share like a nerdy part of my life. I'm journaling watching the game, and I'm like, man, I wish I could live in an alternate reality where Alabama plays Ole Miss every single week. And I know that's a silly thought, but like this game was such a good matchup, and it was so. I mean, imagine if the only game on every weekend was Alabama Ole Miss, and like there's only I just kind of a weird thought. Like imagine there's no football happening except for this one football game, and everybody paid attention to it, and everybody dives into all the nerdy nuances of like, you know, you ever hear that expression? Who would win if they played 10 times? What if we really did that? What if there was really like this little experiment where two teams played each other 10 weeks in a row, and we could dive into all the small, intricate differences week to week in game planning and strategy. And maybe in this game, Alabama runs the ball heavily, and then they're like, oh, we kind of onto something. We're learning outside zone is working really well, and they start running outside zone in game number 2. And then Ole Miss counters and stops that. So you just have all these like, it'd be just so detailed. And there'd be all these back and forth counters and ways that teams find mismatches and exploit them and then find ways to stop them. And I could watch that matchup, Ole Miss, Nick Saban in Alabama against Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, like every week. It would make me as happy as a pig in mud. And I know for next year, like the X's and O's wise, it's such an interesting matchup, Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin. And I already look forward to next year, Ole Miss and Alabama. I think this year, as soon as they were both not undefeated and kind of both out of college football playoff contention, I backed off a little bit. And the reality is, even with them not really either team having a shot at the college football playoff. It was still so much fun because of the matchup and the way they play each other. And I just want to encourage people, next year when Ole Miss plays Alabama, take a minute and appreciate how well matched these teams are schematically. And it's just, oh my gosh, I love it. The final game I want to talk about is TCU beating Texas 17-10. TCU beat Texas. They stayed undefeated. TCU is now 10-0 and looks like they're going to make the college football playoff and get destroyed by Georgia, most likely. But man, Texas really, really disappointed me in this football game. The quarterback for Texas, Quinn Ewers, was 17 for 39 passing, had 171 yards, 1 interception, no touchdowns. In fact, Texas did not score a touchdown on offense all game long. And with 4 minutes left, TCU was up 17-3. It was a blowout. It was not close. TCU did fumble. Texas recovered that and ran for a touchdown. So they got a defensive touchdown in this football game. But on offense, Texas couldn't score. And, the Quinn Ewers interception that was thrown was a really poorly thrown deep ball into double coverage. It's been just a roller coaster of a year for Quinn Ewers. He's been insanely inconsistent, has really high highs and then really low lows. And when I first saw the guy play against Alabama, I'm like, hey, this kid Quinn Ewers is incredible. And now, weeks later, after watching how the year has gone on, I just can already, he doesn't even play that much because he missed some time hurt. I can imagine a future, very much so, where Arch Manning, the nephew of Peyton Manning, comes in and takes the job from Quinn Ewers. And I did not think that, earlier in the year. I remember thinking, why would Arch Manning go there? They've got Quinn Ewers. But Quinn Ewers is almost playing himself out of a job. And it's really confusing and hard to watch. And I just encourage people, do you remember when Texas almost beat Alabama? There was a moment where people were saying Texas is back. And it's been such a weird year for Texas where, similar to their quarterback, Quinn Ewers, it's just been a roller coaster. They beat Oklahoma 49-0. That was impressive. They almost beat Alabama. They lost by 1 point, 19-20. Then they've got this embarrassing loss to Oklahoma State where Quinn Ewers, their quarterback, throws 3 interceptions and 30 incompletions. They lose to TCU. They can't score an offensive touchdown. It's so baffling to me. Texas is 6-4, so it's not been terrible. They've got a winning record, but I'm not even sure what to think about Texas because I'd love to hear from Texas fans what you guys think because it's not been a great year. And maybe that's enough said, I guess, because in Texas they expect greatness, and 6-4 is a mediocre year. So maybe that's my answer already. Is they're deeply unhappy because Texas isn't a great program. But I thought we've seen moments of potential and flashes of really good stuff from Texas this year. But with these high highs have been really low lows, and it's so, I don't know, it's just very disappointing, but also very weird because I thought there was a moment where people were going, oh my gosh, look at what Texas is doing. And then it totally flamed out, and I don't know what to make of it.